Hey everyone, welcome back to Poplar Preparedness. I have some interesting thoughts on just survival and SHTF situations in general. Survival is not a popularity contest, and if you've been around the YouTube bubble for a while, you're going to hear people talking about real preppers and people who are serious preppers, people who are real homesteaders and real gardeners and real this and real that. And survival is not a democracy. It's not all the cool kids get to survive. It's not whoever has all the newest and coolest toys gets to survive. All we're doing is we are planning and preparing to have a better chance to survive crisis situations and to walk through hard times. In a lot of cases, with some more flexibility, some more buffer, and some luxuries, and that's what we're talking about here. Before I go further, who am I, and why does Steve think he has any say or any useful thoughts on these things? I've just been, my garden is not going well this year, right? The stuff that I'm trying to plant this year, my tomatoes, I've killed a whole batch of tomatoes already. I tried starting them. Nope, didn't work. Tried starting onions, and that didn't work. Basically, pretty much all the stuff I've started failed. So, round one, 0. Now, my whole plan for gardening in the first place was to grow the easiest stinking stuff possible that's impossible to kill. And to that extent, those crops are doing pretty good because even I can't kill them, which is great. So drew some artichokes and such like that. So I'm stacking food still. And that's because as my gardening skills, realizing that they're lower, that means I need more food stocked up. But so I worked over, if you haven't already heard my story, I've worked overseas for a few years on the border of Afghanistan. I've done a whole bunch of role-playing for the military in urban settings. Can't say too much about that, but I was not in the military myself, but spent a lot of time hanging around people that were operating. Right, so learned a lot about how combat works and goes down because I've been on the receiving end of it quite a bit. In addition to that, I've traveled extensively into 49 countries. Worked also a little bit in Syria. And I've done a lot of long-distance backpacking. So carrying everything I need on my back and surviving off the land, hitchhiking, and doing all that kind of stuff you're not supposed to do these days anymore, right? So that's kind of what I bring to the table. I've survived off the stuff in my back. I've walked the entire Appalachian Trail, 2,000 miles of that. And granted, that's a different scenario, but at the same time, a lot of it is pretty applicable. On the Appalachian Trail, you saw these people who knew it all, and they just didn't have the stick-to-itiveness to endure the pain every day to keep walking. That's really what it takes to do a 2,000-mile-long trail over the mountains is you wake up every morning, it hurts, and you keep pushing yourself. You keep walking. When you're like, I don't want to go another step, you say, I will take another step. And you keep going. You keep going up mountains. Hauling a big pack up mountains is not sometimes pleasant when it's raining and when it's hot and when there's mosquitoes and adversity comes. And that's survival, folks. It's not cool. It's not I have all the cool gizmos. It's Are you going to wake up every morning in a crisis situation and say, there's work to be done, I'm going to get it done? Because you know what? I'd put my money on a person that has that attitude and that work ethic over someone who has all the toys any day. Do you have the survival mentality? Are you ready to grind, so to speak, right? That you're willing to put in the work. You may have to work harder than other people because you don't know how to do it. My gardening situation, it's bad. It's really bad, devastating. So what I do, I've taken several steps. First step is I finally got my hand on a whole bunch of fruit trees. So I have 9 fruit trees that are going in the ground. Hopefully tomorrow, we'll see about that. But apples, and I have a chestnut tree. That's not really a fruit tree, but I'm very excited about the chestnut tree. And those, I have a pear, I think, in there too. Those things are going in the ground. My trees from last year, some of them didn't survive. They're just little sticks. These are like taller than me trees. So I've done that because I figure fruit trees that are already growing are harder to kill than trying to start things from seeds. My Jerusalem artichokes are that's why I put them in the ground, is because they're going to keep growing. They're my calories. A lot of folks work with potatoes extensively. I'm not really a potato enthusiast in the growing side. I'll just learn to adapt to eating Jerusalem artichokes if I need the calories. That's generally my consensus on that. And I got radishes in the ground that they're just growing up again on their own. I'm going to keep sowing them, succession planting on the radishes. They're great for breaking up the soil as well. Of course, you know that I have my chickens, Paint Chip. My oldest chicken is still laying when she's not eating things that she ought not to be down by the road or eating paint chips off doors like she likes to do. I got my 4 new chickens that are a couple months out before they will start laying, but I'm looking forward to seeing them start laying. And I'm stacking more food because that's what you do. See, some people will give you the impression that their pure form of preparedness is the only way to do it. Some people will say basically just pure stacking. Other people will say pure gardening. If you're not gardening, you're going to die in the apocalypse or something like that. And it's just, there's many strategies to survive. I hate to break it to people, but people have been surviving in some of the worst situations in the world for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and they didn't watch Prepper X channel and Prepper Y channel on YouTube. You have these experts that are just, this is the way to do it. Right. And I'm not knocking on any particular YouTube channels or anything like that. I learned so much from basically pretty much all the channels out there. But I just don't want there to be this impression that one person's way is the only way to go. I am spending a lot of time preparing videos for YouTube. And that is part of my contribution because this is something I'm good at, seeing the news and going over that kind of stuff. Hopefully this channel is able to get you off of the news sites that you may spend hours and hours and hours a day on to watch a few short videos from me and maybe a few short videos from someone else or something like that. And then you can spend the rest of your time doing productive tasks. That's actually my great hope of things, is that I hope that this channel saves you time so that you stop surfing the internet and get out there and do the things that you need to do. Right? Or to point you towards the things that you need to do when you run out of ideas and the next things to do, right? I was just last week, I was kind of like, I kind of, in my garden, what's the next big project I'm going to do? And I was looking online and I came across some hand-drilled wells. And I was like, you know what? I have a rain catchment system on my garage that I use for watering stuff, but I could use more water. I would really like to have more water, and I've always had a plan to kind of do to hand drill a well. Well, in this case, it's going to be hand pounded a well. So those materials for that, which are not all that expensive to pound a well into the ground, it's called a sand point well. I don't have sand here. I have clay, but I'm told it should theoretically work as long as I hit water, right? So basically, you just take this special point with the grill on the front of it, and you just pound it into the ground, and then you connect the next section of pipe, and then you pound that into the ground, and then you repeat until you hit water, or you can't pound it anymore, right? Will I hit water? I suspect I will. So that's something I'm looking forward to, and maybe I'll pound one or two more of these things. I have ulterior motives for this. Not only do I want water, but I'd like the opportunity to get off city water. That would be a cool thing to do. But the other thing I'd really like to do is I'd like to move to geothermal. Geothermal heat pump is way more efficient electricity-wise for heating and cooling. So if I'm going to be switching over completely to solar, having a geothermal heat pump would be a really nice thing. And to do that, I need a water source that's coming from underground. And a well would kind of prove that I have the water there, and might have to drill another one or two wells to be able to pull the water in order to do an open loop geothermal system. Is that allowed around here? Hopefully. And hopefully no one asks any questions. We'll see. But I'm just going to go ahead and do it, is kind of the plan. So first I need water. I need that for my garden and everything like that. And then maybe I could move towards actually using that in my house for secondary uses apart from drinking, or move to purified water, purify my well water in order to use that throughout my house. That would be a cool thing to do. Save me a fair bit of money on my water bills, right? So folks out there, just what is your next project, and get on that, right? But hopefully these videos save you time. That's my thing. And to just have a strategy. Figure out what works for you. If you're in an apartment, it's going to be a very different strategy than if you have 40 acres, If you got 40 acres and livestock and everything like that, kudos to you. I can't do that. Not on this property. And this property is worlds better than where I was before. I'm kind of new to a lot of this stuff because just over a year ago, I was living in an apartment practically downtown Pittsburgh. And I am so grateful, praise the Lord, that I am out here sitting on almost an acre, and I'm surrounded by farmland now, as opposed to being surrounded by projects and stuff like that, and lots of people. I didn't have any opportunity to really garden on my little postage stamp property there. I was renting it, and I didn't have permission to start a garden or anything like that. So folks, I don't know what your situation is exactly, and I want you to be very clear that the people on YouTube's don't know your particular situation either. You can get advice from them, you can get generalities, you can get information, but you need to go ahead with your own plan. It's your responsibility to provide for you and your family, and only you really can make those choices. Now, mark my words, the choices that you make, you will either suffer the consequences or reap the rewards from, right? But that's you. I'm planting some fruit trees, and I'm super excited about that. It may be a couple years before I see anything from them, but and someone's going to say out there, get a crabapple tree. I got a crabapple tree to pollinate my apple trees. Don't worry. I watch the YouTube videos and I learn things. I'm going to reap the rewards from those apple trees, hopefully, and the pear tree and the plum tree that I have, and had another fruit tree and it died. So whatever that was, I forget. This is like apricots or something like that, and it died. Oh well, you win some, you lose some, and everything that you do is not going to be awesome. So I tried starting tomato seeds and it didn't work. So I went to the farmer's market and I got some tomato plants. So hopefully those do a little better, right? Is it cheating? Yeah, probably. But you know what? Survival isn't a popularity contest. I may not be a hardcore prepper. I may not be a hardcore gardener. I may not be a hardcore operator and stuff like that, But you know what? I'm going to do my best, and I can do more than most people would expect, right? Because you know what? 2,000 miles, the Appalachian Trail taught me one thing, is that every day I'd wake up and I'd start walking. I'd wake up early, right at the crack of dawn. I'd wake up and I'd start walking. And I was never the most in shape hiker out there. I've picked up quite a few since then. I'm way more out of shape now, but I was never really like fully in shape. And people would wake up at like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning and start walking or whatever, and they'd catch up to me by noon or 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. I'd see them in the shelter, and I'd start walking right at first break of day. I just keep grinding. But you know what? The funny thing was, some of those people who could like outwalk me like nobody's business, we ended up at the same place at the end of the day, because you know what? I started walking at dawn, and I stopped walking when the sun started going down. I got there. I ground. I spent the whole day walking with very few breaks. They walked really, really fast and stopped repeatedly and chatted with everybody. And you know what? We ended up in the same place. And that's a survival situation too. There's going to be people who are going to do things differently than you. There's going to be people who do things way more awesome than you. And their garden is going to be like, whoa, it looks so cool. But you know what? You just need food. You need food out of the garden. It needs to produce food. And if it produces food, then who cares what it looks like, right? Who cares if somebody is there like, doesn't think that you're all that. So hopefully this has been an encouragement to you guys. Hopefully you're not intimidated by what you see or what is implied on YouTube. I think you've probably mostly you've picked up from me that I am a learner, and I'm figuring things out as I go when it comes to homesteading and prepping. And I've lost chickens. I've lost 4 chickens now. 2 from the first batch. I got 3 chickens at first, lost 2 of them. They died violent deaths. I got 6 more chickens, and 2 of those have died. And if I had known what I was doing better, I probably wouldn't have lost quite so many of them. But you know what? I learned stuff from that. My next batch of chickens, I've only lost 1/3 of them instead of 2/3 from the first batch. So we'll see how that goes for the future. We'll see if that holds true, that maybe I'm getting a little better at it. But folks, just do what you can. Keep grinding. Keep learning. Keep growing. If SHTF never happens, hopefully you're a better person because of the things that you're learning. And the growth that you have, right? All right, folks, there's one other video over here that if you haven't seen this already, you might want to check that out, and I'll see you right over there.